Before we begin, just know I will explain the Universe 1 and Hero AU part of the title of this video once the series is about to end, and you will like it. No, love it and subscribe because I need money and I will make videos where a character wheel is made or type shit, but now let's stop yapping and begin part 1 of the Hero AU Universe 1. What if Deku had a pride quirk and Izuku's parents are the same like in the original, but Isashi would leave to get the milk and so Inko had to raise Zuko alone, like in the original, and she did so. And this is where we fast forward to 4 years later, and Izuku's personality right now is Gojo's times 10 confidence, and smart mouth and liking All Might, and not because of All Might's strength and peacekeeping as a hero, but instead power and fame, which he wants a lot, but today he was now being taken to the Quirk by Inko and a car, and after a bit, the car stopped and Inko took Izuku to the Quirk doctor, and this time, it's not Dr. Ujiko and instead my OC, Dr. Zeno, a maybe depressed but bold person who has a quirk-identifying quirk, which allowed him to get small descriptions of a quirk via touch, and so he touched Izuku. And once touching Izuku, he got the description of Izuku's quirk, and it is quirk name, pride, quirk abilities, manipulation, future sight, blank. And after he saw that, he said quirk name, pride, listed abilities, manipulation, future sight, third ability not revealed, and that's all I read, so don't tell me that I am wrong. And Izuku heard that. He nodded as Inko asked Dr. Zeno a few questions, but Dr. Zeno said that same thing, and after he was done talking, Izuku and Inko left back home, as Inko did not think about Izuku's quirk anymore, thinking nothing will go wrong, but Izuku was testing his manipulation ability first and on animals first and alone as well, and after a lot of trials and error later, he learned that his manipulation quirk works on people, or animals or mindless creatures that either are mindless or have a weaker will than him, and he loved this power because he can make his slaves, no friends, do his work, and he used this a lot, and he also did make friends and ignored Bakugo because Bakugo was an annoying boy in his eyes, but also having a lot of mental strain and feeling mentally tired, so he trained on that. But another weakness is that if the controlled person has a strong will, then manipulation won't work. But after he learned that, he decided practice with his second ability of future sight and had even more mental pain when using future sight, but saw many futures, and on the next day, those futures actually happened, and he had the biggest grin, and he firstly put all of his focus on the future sight, and it took around a years to fully for him to master, and right now he is 8 and already had mastered the future sight, like I said. And Izuku himself realized he had no training for the manipulation, because for the manipulation, all he needs is an indestructible will, which he already has, and so he remembered what Dr. Zeno said about the fact that he had 3 abilities in his pride quirk, and the third ability he had not learned about, but he did not know where to start, so he started holding random things and thinking of random things, and this did not work at first, so Izuku put the third ability on the back of his mind, and right now acting confident, powerful, slightly extroverted, and calm around everyone, and trying to already gain fame in his school, but Bakugo had gotten in his way by saying that he is this and he is that. But Izuku waited until Bakugo challenged him to a fight, and once Bakugo did that, Izuku had defeated Bakugo by his manipulation ability, as he had embarrassed and humiliated Bakugo. And this had gained him more popularity, which he wanted, and people did not care about his pride because of Izuku's charming and kind act that he puts, but Izuku had one thing he was interested in, and that is being a hero, and at first he did not want to because it would not gain him anything big, but one reason gave him a reason to become a hero, and it is Inka's approval and validation of him, and because of Izuku wanting that he trained for that reason, and in the following years he got stronger and smarter and learned more, but age 13 he was in his room reading a book as one of the pages were talking about time travel and manipulation. And as he was reading it, the book suddenly had a green glow around it, and it disappeared. And Izuku was very confused, but quickly went into overdrive, as he realized this was his third ability, and this ability is All Rewind, which is Aries Rewind, and Izuku, after seeing that one, started to test it on other objects, and at first it barely worked, but slowly and steadily, in a month he realized his quirk allowed him to turn things or people back in time, but he accidentally used rewind, yet he was still in his room. But as Izuku looked at himself, he realized he was now back at age 12, and Izuku was shocked and confused, but after a lot of thinking, he realized this rewind ability allows him to in a way go back in time / rewind everything back to the past with only his memories, and after Izuku realized that, his power was absolute,
as his pride went through the roof, and as he trained Rewind, he realized there were two parts of Rewind, and the first being able to affect others and other objects like Ares, while the second is reminding himself back into time. And as he started brainstorming,
He realized the second ability also has a 24-hour time limit for another usage, but he also found a loophole, so it does not matter. And so he called this World Rewind. But after realizing the strength he has, he trained all three of his abilities from his Pride Quirk, and only that for the entire 1 year and getting back to 13. And then in this year, he entirely trained physically, knowing using World Rewind will get him back into time with his memories, but not his physical strength. But he still kept training and increasing his popularity. And Bakugo in all of this felt envious because he hates people cheering for Izuku, and every compliment for Izuku is a slap to his face. But Bakugo is in fear. He senses something wrong under Izuku's confidence pride. That intense has an edge to it, something calculating, almost predatory, and Bakugo might not understand it, but he feels it. But his pride won't let him admit he's scared or impressed, and so he doubles down on anger and competition. And so he starts training harder, and not just to win, but to break through Izuku's smug perfection. And because of this training, Bakugo would have been 2.2 times stronger than in the original and before the UA entrance exam. But he also got slightly more calmer, but there is still bottling anger in him. But now back to Izuku, and right now Izuku was 14 and was now in Aldera Junior High, and sitting on his seat, being a charmer and a perfect prince as always, while Bakugo is yapping about him becoming the #1 hero, and Izuku retorting to it, and before they could fight, the teacher came in class and told them to stop, and Bakugo did so, as Izuku stayed calm, and the teacher came in front of the class as he did his dialogue of faking the career aptitude test, and then saying, "I know you all want to be heroes" thing, and then everyone used their quirks, but Izuku stopped them all from doing that, and then let them go off his control as he said, "Let's not destroy the school." And once everyone heard that, they all groaned, but said nothing, as the teacher thanked Izuku and continued the class. And after a bit, it ended quickly because Izuku has many things to do, and as he was walking back home, he had used Future Sight because he uses it every hour to see an hour in the future as a heads up. And this time, he saw the Sludge Villain incident and All Might, and him learning about All Might's lung injury and about One for All, and All for One as Mind came up with a devious plan as he realized he could use this as an advantage. And he took the same path he was going to take in that future as he took a shortcut under the bridge. And after a bit, the Sludge Villain came out of the sewer, but Izuku used manipulation on the Sludge, and the Sludge Villain was in his control. As he made the Sludge Villain knock himself out, as he put the Sludge Villain in a jar, and waited as All Might came saying, "I am here," and saw Izuku there with a jar containing the sludge as before he could say anything, Izuku said, "Let's not waste time, Mr. All Might. I have a future sight ability for my quirk, and I can heal your lung injury. And before you say anything, I also know about One for All and about the transferability of it and All for One as well. So should we talk for a bit first, or I help you and you help me?" And once All Might heard that, he had an instant reaction of shock and surprise as he said, "Young man, hold on just a moment. I don't know you, but you've just shown up, you've captured the villain I was tracking, and you're telling me things I didn't expect, that you can heal a lung injury of mine, that you know about One for All for One." And Izuku hearing that nodded and said, "I can heal you, yes, and don't try to think about it. I know in the end you will accept because I already saw it in the future, and don't worry, I have no villainous intent. I'm here to help, not destroy." And once All Might heard that, his eyes narrowing slightly, voice steady as he said, "Young man, you've done something remarkable, apprehending this villain, arriving with knowledge of things many don't even fully understand, but knowledge alone does not make a hero. You claim you can heal my injury, that you know about the transfer of One for All and All for One, yet we have never met. I don't know you. So tell me, what are you here for? Fame? Power? Or protection of others?" And once Izuku heard that, he sighed but said, "Like I said, I just learned about this because of my future sight ability, and I can heal you and get you back in your prime, and in exchange you help me, a hero. Think about it. You get to be as strong as your prime again, and also gain a hero that can see incoming disasters, and that can heal other heroes." And once All Might heard that, he thought for a bit and was still suspicious, but there was no lie in Izuku's tone or voice, as he said, "I need some time to think." And after Izuku heard that, nodded and gave All Might the sludge to the jar as he said, "I know you will tell me to come at Dagoma Beach in a week at noon, to I guess that's going to be our time. So for now, goodbye, All Might." And so as Izuku walked away, All Might was in confusion at this, but he did his hero duties as this was on his mind entirely, and as he kept thinking and thinking, he decided he needed some outside perspective on this as he'd called Sir Night-Eye about this, because of Sir Night-Eye also having a type of future sight quirk, and All Might would tell him about his conversation with the young man Izuku. And after some back and forth, Sir Night-Eye's last words to be to All Might before cutting the call are, first, ask him what he sees when he uses his foresight. Is his vision of himself or only of others? Second, ask what he's willing to sacrifice. If foresight is used purely for fame or power, the cost will show. Third, test his healing claim in a controlled way.
If he's honest, he'll accept limits, transparency. If not,
And do not mistake this for trust. Think of it as observation. And Toshinori, proceed carefully. And All Might said, okay, as Night Eye cut the call, while we now get back to Izuku seeing multiple futures and on how he can get the best outcome. And after searching to more than 1,000 of them, he found 3 great outcomes as he chose number 2. And after a week later, he went to Degoma Beach at noon, as he saw All Might there in his small might form waiting. As he said, I am guessing your talk with pro hero Sir Night Eye ended about me, and believe me please, I am here to help for now, and not become a villain. So do you want me heal you and get you back in your prime as long as you help in what I want? And no, this won't be much because of what I am giving you. And once Izuku was done and All Might heard all of it, he thought for a few seconds as he said, all right, young man, I will accept your help, but under strict conditions. We proceed carefully, step by step, any misuse, and I pull back immediately. Understood? And once Izuku heard that, he was about to lose himself, but calmed himself down as he said, I don't get why you don't trust, but I can see either way you will, so let's begin. And once Izuku said that, he used Rewind on All Might, and a green glow surrounded All Might, and in a second, All Might felt reinvigorated and strengthened and powerful. As his body turned into his buff form, as once the glow disappeared, All Might felt incredible and even fantastic. And Izuku, smirking, said, now that you're at your prime strength, you can now set Japan's villain count to 0 once you take down this all-for-one fellow. And if you're wondering if this will wear off, no, it won't even if I die. So now I need my part of the deal. And it's simple, very simple. And once All Might heard that, he nodded, not sensing any malice from Izuku, but confidence for some reason. And Izuku said, I want you to recommend me to UA High, and not as your successor, but someone who is sent by you, All Might, the symbol of peace. And I'm becoming for a 25% selfish reason and 75% selfless reason. But don't ask about that. But now, will you do it since I just made you back in your prime? And after Izuku said that, All Might said, very well, I will recommend you to UA High, but know this, my recommendation is not a guarantee of success. You must prove yourself there as any student would. I am trusting you to use your abilities responsibly. Do not make me regret this, young man. And once Izuku heard that, he nodded as he said, okay, and no, I don't one for all, so goodbye. And if there is some incoming threat, then I will tell you. So I think we should give each other's our numbers, All Might. And once Izuku said that, All Might nodded and gave Izuku his number, and they both split up for now. As the 10-month training arc started for Izuku, and Izuku in this trained alone because he already knows he will win in the UA entrance, but after that little nice acting, he really wants to show his real personality, and he won't so much as hold back showing. But Izuku trained himself physically with some help from All Might here and there, whenever All Might is willing. But Izuku would also be able to help All Might by giving him info about natural disasters, or some gangs who might cause a little too much ruckus, and about how his quirk works, but not telling him about World Rewind, and All Might's and Izuku's relationship as partners of a kind. Become better, but that's all Izuku did as the 10 months ended and Izuku was walking with All Might as he said, so I will be doing this recommendation exam, so who should I expect most there? And once All Might heard that, he said, well, that person is Shoto Todoroki, son of Enji Todoroki, the number 2 hero. And Izuku hearing that nodded as they both arrived at the recommendation entrance exam. As everyone who were shocked to see All Might with a green-haired kid, as Endeavor was there as well, wondering the same thing as wondered why All Might was here, but as he listened in, he realized that this green-hair brat was the one All Might was recommended for. And after learning about that, he told Todoroki to win against that green-haired in any way, and Todoroki just nodded begrudgingly as the recommendation exam started. And the first was a written exam, which Izuku answered all the questions to. And next was the obstacle course, which you have to use your quirk into. And as all the contestants got ready, as Izuku looked around seeing Momo Yaoyorozu, Inasa Yaorashi, Juzo Honenuki,
Setsuna Takage, and finally Shoto Todoroki, as he smirked, while the referee finally gave the go and all the contestants except Izuku stopped moving as Izuku started walking as no one else walked and they all had a blank expression as the people who were watching were confused. As Endeavor had a pissed expression while All Might had expected this, while the other contestants' parents were confused. And Nezu was astounded by the control of that power as he had read up on Izuku's file, and now he realized why Izuku's quirk was called Pride, because his personality radiates it. But now back to Izuku, who crossed the finish line and let everyone out of his manipulation as they instantly rushed forward, and this part went the same. As that's all for the recommendation exam, and Izuku was in. As we now jump cut to Izuku and All Might to Degoma Beach, as All Might asked what Izuku will do now, and Izuku said, "Simple, All Might. I might be like this, but I somewhat am half trying to help here, which would help me with my own goals, so don't be afraid because I won't be a villain." And All Might hearing that nodded, as Izuku went back home, and as he told Inko the good news, and they went out to celebrate and went to a restaurant.
And Inko stating she was proud of Izuku, and Izuku feeling his pride grow after hearing that, as he knew the next step was just to continue on forward until he gets all the glory. And after this had ended, Izuku went back home and fell asleep. And after a week later, and Izuku being ready, as Inko was taking him via the car, and once they arrived, Inko stopped the car, and Izuku got out of it and said goodbye to Inko, and he went in UA High and then in Class 1A, as once opening the door, he saw two people already arguing as he realized one of them, Bakugo, was Bakugo, while the other was a blue-haired, which we know is Ida. And once Bakugo saw Izuku, he ignored Ida and scoffed as he said, "How did you come in here, Izuku? You have to have cheated. I never saw you in the entrance exam." And once Izuku heard that, he had a small smile as he said charming and nicely, "I was given to opportunity to join the recommendation exam by, if I remember correctly, it was All Might." And once Bakugo heard that, he could not believe it, but seeing the pride in Izuku's eyes, he realized Izuku was telling the truth, while other students who were listening in were shocked as one of them approached Izuku, and it was Kirishima, and he asked if what Izuku was saying is the truth, and Izuku hearing that nodded, as Kaminari asked how Izuku managed to get All Might to recommend him, and Izuku said, "Simple. I gave him something he needs, but what that is, I can't say." And Kaminari and Kirishima nodded as Izuku was using his charm to get more popularity on the first day, which Bakugo did not like, but as the rest of the students arrived and then Izawa finally woke up and got out of his sleeping and told everyone to go change into their gym clothes and meet him outside because they are having a quirk assessment. And after Izawa said that Achako asked about orientation, but Izuku just walked to the changing room as Izawa told them to follow ahead because he has no time for orientation, and everyone did so and got changed and went outside. As Izawa told Bakugo to get in the circle and throw the ball using his quirk, and Bakugo did so, and this time he reached almost 2,167 meters as he smirked and told Izuku to take that, and Izuku hearing that stays quiet as the rest of the students were saying how cool this was until Izawa gave them the ultimatum of whoever gets last in this test gets expelled, and everyone hearing that locked in and started the tests, and Izuku just smirked as in the running test, no one except Izuku walked. And in the grip test, everyone got a low grip strength except Izuku. And in the push-ups and sit-ups and squats, everyone only managed to do one while Izuku did way more. And in the new ball throw, everyone barely got over 10 meters, while Izuku got higher than that as Izuku in all of these tests used manipulation to make the others fail. And this is not breaking any rules since Izawa did state use your quirk, and after the tests were done, Izawa said, "Okay, most of you did bad because one of you outsmarted me, but don't worry, I won't expel any of you, and green-haired Bai, don't do that again next time we're doing a test like this." And after everyone heard that, they breathed a sigh of relief, and Izuku nodded, and some of them asked why Izuku did that, and Izuku just said, "Because Asaba-sensei told us to use our quirks, and I did so. What is wrong about?" And everyone hearing that were annoyed, and Bakugo was even more, as he told Izuku to do these tests like a man, and Izuku heard that but did not care as he walked away. And as we now get into the cafeteria incident, and Izuku was able to make everyone calm down, but he refused to be class rep because it's not worth it in his eyes, so he let Ida have it, and that's that.
As he fast forward to a few days later and to All Might coming class 1A like a nominal person and doing his dialogue of the clothes make the pros and then showing everyone their hero outfits. And everyone was yay and happy while Izuku looked at his clothes, which is basically what Mash from Mashley wore, but more in aura farming. And everyone quickly changed as some of them complimented Izuku, which he smirked because he knew the truth. And as he basking in that, All Might explained about the 2v2 heroes versus villain test, and after done explaining, everyone took a paper to find their teammate, and once he took one, he read that his teammate was Todoroki and he was not impressed, but went to Todoroki as he said, "Don't be annoyed at what I did in the recommendation exam, and let's put our differences aside and win." And once Todoroki heard that, he nodded as All Might stated that the first round was between the heroes Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki versus the villains Invisible Girl and Ochako, and after All Might that, Izuku had an expression of "we're winning and there is a 0% chance of us losing," while Todoroki stayed calm, and the battle started and Todoroki and Izuku won in 1 minute and touched the bomb, as All Might said, "Hero team wins." And after that, both Todoroki and Izuku nodded to each other and spread apart as the rest of the matches slightly went the same, as Izuku was rizzing up the girls he thought would benefit him in the future and future affairs as well, and him joking with them and them actually laughing, unlike our sad reality. And let's get back to the story, as Izuku's influence was growing, and you're going to like the next part or hate it. And so we now jump cut to a week later and to Class 1A in a bus heading to the USJ, as Suyu asked who they think is the strongest, and most said Izuku because he can mind control so easily, and Izuku basking in the glory and Bakugo retorting by saying, "Shh, strongest? He never fought anyone." And Izuku hearing that said,
I don't need to, because none of you yet can't break through my manipulation. And once you can, I guess we can fight. But right now, no one can fight me. And after Izuku said that, everyone was convinced, while Bakugo was annoyed. And before Todoroki could ask how his manipulation ability worked, but the bus stopped and they arrived to the USJ and got out of the bus and went in as they met Pro Hero 13. As 13 after that gave her speech on the dangers of a quirk, and after that was done, a black mist portal came in and out from Kurogiri, as he did his speech of, "We are inviting ourselves in here, heroes." And after that, villains pouring in the USJ as Aizawa told 13 to protect the students. And after that, he started battling the villains, and before Kurogiri could warp everyone away, Izuku used manipulation, as Kurogiri was now in his control, as Izuku said, "Defeat him now, Bakugo." And Bakugo hearing that told him to shut up, but used an explosion on Kurogiri point blank, knocking him out, as Izuku said, "Whoever can fight, just fight the villains. The teachers can't do all the work, and do it." And Izuku said that everyone fought the villains who could fight, as it was very because the villains would either knock themselves out or not attack because of Izuku looking at them and mind controlling them, as the villains were going down easy, as Izuku went in the middle and helped Aizawa as the villains stopped moving and Aizawa quickly defeated them, as Izuku said, "Don't worry, my manipulation does not destroy a person's mind if you wondered. So keep fighting, and it seems like we have the boss in the middle with that thing." And after Izuku said that, Aizawa looked at the middle, seeing two people, and it was Shigaraki and the Nomu, as Shigaraki started monologuing about the Nomu's strength and that it's a modified human filled with quirks to kill All Might. And Aizawa and Izuku hearing that, looked at each other and then back at Shigaraki, as Izuku used manipulation on both Shigaraki and the Nomu, and they both were in his control, as controlling the Nomu was easy because of it being a mindless creature, and Izuku made to remember that as he used the Nomu to attack the rest of the villains. And after the bit, everything was handled thanks to Izuku, as Izuku looked at the slightly beaten Aizawa as he said, "I expect to get 90% of the credit because I did that much." And Aizawa hearing that said, "You did good work, but heroes don't fight for credit. You acted fast, you were effective, I'll give you that, but next time keep your focus on saving people, not percentages." And after Aizawa said that, Izuku sighed as the heroes and All Might came with a call from Aizawa, as the rest of the villains and the Nomu were cuffed, as Izuku used Future Sight. And after seeing what is about to happen, he told All Might to come to him, and All Might did so, asking what was wrong, and Izuku calmly said, "All for One's coming right now."
and All Might had a serious expression, and not even seconds later, a black portal came into existence, and out from it came out All For One clapping, and everyone was instantly in focus, as All For One said, My, I never expected UA High first-year students to be able to go up against my successor and the Nomu. And after he said that, Izuku tried to use manipulation, but it failed like he expected, but hearing the word successor made him realize that the cyan-haired villain was his successor, and Izuku instantly went to Shigaraki and used a full power rewind and rewounded Shigaraki from existence, shocking everyone, including All For One, as Izuku said, your successor is dead and you're going to be defeated today, and All Might get ready to battle. And after Izuku said, All For One was royally pissed, but before he could strike, All Might attacked All For One as a battle started and All For One was defeated and would be captured because there is Endeavor, Snipe, a few other heroes, and a slightly damaged Aizawa from the previous battle, and maybe Class 1A, which will adds to a little. But Izuku can and will be able to heal all injuries of the heroes because of Rewind, and as the battle continued, the heroes were winning and All For One was down, and before the heroes in Class 1A could breathe for a second, Izuku pulled out his gun and shot All For One in the head as he looked at All Might and said he was going to escape again. I saw it and think, do you want more casualties from him? And before you say I did something wrong and talk about this and that, I saw a future, and in that one, you died, even with all the strength you had, and All For One took over Japan, so think of this as a massive future threat fully unable to do what they were going to do. And once Izuku was done, All Might said, Young Midoriya, that was what? Izuku said, as he acted annoyed and said, I saved millions of people who were going to die in the future, and you as well, and the rest of them as well. I already saw what was going to happen. All For One gets sent to Tartarus, and then someone named Overhaul freed him and gave him some kind of bullet that erases quirks. Yes, quirks, and you lost, All Might. You truly lost. So don't tell that I am wrong, because whenever I say I am right, I know it. And right now, I am right. And after Izuku said that, All Might said nothing, nor did Class 1A or the other heroes, as the USJ was taken care of and the villains were sent to jail, and the Nomu and Kurogiri, as well as all of what Izuku did, there was turned into rightful because of what he said, and not even one day after the USJ incident, Izuku was walking to Nezu's office as he knocked and was allowed in, and as Nezu asked why he was here. And Izuku just said, this is important, I need to talk to All Might. And Nezu hearing that nodded and called All Might, and after a bit, All Might came into Nezu's office as they started, and Izuku explained about the overhaul situation in one of his future sites. As he explained what was going to happen and how they can effectively stop it, and so a plan was made, and with the help of Sir Night-Eye and many more heroes, an invasion was on Overhaul's bases, and it was a surprise attack. As the heroes were winning, even with Overhaul's quirk erasing bullets, the heroes were winning as All Might was able to defeat Overhaul with ease with the help of Izuku, as Eri was also found and sent into UA High like in the original, and Izuku got most of the spotlight and made sure it all got to him, as no one could really stop him because of what he was doing was beneficial to the heroes, as due to most of the big villains being already taken down. And so Class 1A became heroes in the future because there is zero threats and basically a time of peace. But Izuku did not stop, and using power and popularity and status, he was climbing through the ranks until he got to the #1 by defeating All Might because of All Might wanting the next generation to succeed if he does not live, and so Izuku became that pillar for a few decades and was considered the greatest hero until he retired at age 50, and this is where we would end the series. But before we do, you guys remember the Universe 1 thing, right? Well, good thing, because the reason why I put the title as What If Deku Had a Pride Quirk and Universe 1 Hero AU is because Izuku, before dying at the nice age of 110, would have used World Rewind and sent himself back to when he was a baby without his memories due to the higher control of Rewind that he had gotten in the years. And now we will start What If Deku Had a Pride Quirk Universe 2 Villain AU, and this is basically the biggest twist you probably heard in 2025. But if we get 10 subscribers more and 500 views, I will continue to Universe, and so peace out, Gooners.